So where do you want to start? Tush push, James Cook?
Cook.
Brandon Beane says, among other things, we're on to the draft. I would like to point something out, if I may. Remember, you ever heard a GM in your life say, we don't negotiate through the media?
Sure.
Yeah, you do.
He is.
You just did. Mm-hmm. You just sent a message, a very strong message, because a couple things about this Cook conversation. One, James Cook started it by going public on social media and on podcasts and shows and talking about how he wants $15 million a year. And I don't have any problem with him doing that.
Me either.
He's really good. He's underpaid. He's looking for a contract. Every one of the guys that the Bills just signed to an extension had a year of contract left and signed. And Cook is in the same boat. He has a year left. He wants some assurances. He wants some guarantees. He plays a position that can be a meat grinder, so he wants $15 million a year. Okay, I have no problem with that. And Brandon Beane with Sal yesterday in the sort of media said basically that we're on to the draft. We met. We didn't get anywhere close to a conversation about what we could meet on. And I'm paraphrasing here. But no real progress, nothing to report. Doesn't feel like they're going to be close. We're on to the draft. He even said that we talked with James' representation and then pivoted to the guys we felt we were closer with, which I feel like that's predictable. If you were to rank the players in how likely they would have been extended, I would have listed them in the order that they went. Shakir first, right? Then Bernard, then Rousseau, then Benford, and then Cook, who is the last one and who does not have an extension. So on this timeline, Nate, there's a couple things. That, and the second part of it, and I don't know if you find this interesting or if anybody else out there, you want to chime in on this. Cook is also the one that fans are willing to turn on quickly. The quickest. How many people do you have when this comes up saying, trade him, let him go, play it out, who cares? You do not get that about Terrell Bernard. You do not get that about Benford. You do not get that about Shakir. Cook is the one that the fans, I think, are, maybe you want to say the smart fans or the fans that play GM, they are ready to say, see ya. Not worried about it. So it's not even, I don't want to say it's not controversial, because it is. You've got plenty of fans that want him back, but I've got the GM saying, we're on to the draft, and the Bills are about to play a little bit of hardball with a guy for the first time since Jordan Poyer, who that was about age, and he came back. And before Jordan Poyer, it was who? They don't often get into hardball with their players. They just don't.
No, they don't. In fairness, you said, he doesn't they don't negotiate in public. I agree they do. Everybody does, even if you're not meaning to. They do. It's less about, maybe their desire or ability to. I would say that I think from the beginning that James Cook and his representation, I think, probably played the game a little, maybe too risky. I don't know. I guess, especially when you consider who James Cook is, which is, I don't know that it's like his whole persona is he's quiet. You don't hear from him. And then, as soon as the season ended, it was, delete the picks, just whatever that plan is now, the rollout plan for players and representatives to say the first thing you should do is delete the pictures on Instagram because that gets everybody on edge. It starts, everybody knows what you're about to do. And I don't know, you watched all the players that got signed. And I'm not here to tell you I think that it's because, James Cook was out in public. Not necessarily James Cook, but he was on Twitter and tweeting, and I don't know that I've ever seen James Cook tweet before. The tweets that came out about him wanting, and the emojis over tweets of guys getting paid, it's, I think it's an interesting way to negotiate, the way that they went about it. And I'm not telling you there's a right or wrong way. I'm just here looking at the facts that are laid before me is the guys that just went in and negotiated and didn't make a scene about it, didn't talk about it in the media, all got locked up. James Cook didn't. And I think it's very apparent that we know what the bargaining chip is or where his number is. I'm not sure any of us knew. We could all speculate Christian Benford really wanted $20 million.
Right.
He didn't get it. Could he have? I think presumably say yes, he probably could have. To me, it looks like also all four guys, even Josh Allen to an extent, took some level of discount. Right? I mean, I think it feels that way.
The discount, it could be, in the case of Josh, definitely, because he's the best quarterback and he's not getting the most money. The other guys, it's a good question. Like, how much of a discount is there? How much momentum are the Bills able to build with these signings? And when you go to a Christian Benford and say, hey, man, like, you like it here, everybody's coming back.
Right.
We're going to try to win this thing. Here's a piece of paper. When you sign this, you're going to get like $60 million. You want to do that? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's go.
Am I maybe also applying the, I don't know, do you have the piece of paper in here when somebody gets signed, you sign them, it's
the flow chart?
Am I inadvertently doing that a little?
No, but I think it's worth mentioning. This is a credit to the Bills. I'd love to get into a conversation about this. The Bills get a player for a number you're expecting. It comes in lower.
Yeah.
And then it's Beane as a wizard. And I'm kind of half kidding and half serious. Do we think he has some sort of mental game that gets guys to take less? Or is it just we see a team that is the opposite of the Cowboys and the Bengals and teams that wait? If he had waited a year on all of these contracts,
different story.
They are way more expensive because you're paying for guys to not go to other teams when they're in free agent contracts. A franchise tag kind of deal. Like,
you're not negotiating against anyone else.
Not only that, we're also not talking about a player other than Allen, who has already gotten $100 million, and he's fine. You're not extending Jamar Chase, where you're not getting a discount there. He has to be paid the most.
Yeah.
So you're paying very good, non-elite, not on the open market players. It's good business for the Bills. Mm-hmm. How much of it is Beane is a wizard, and how much is the Bills have really a smart approach here on how they play the market and how they extend guys that they believe in?
I will say the timing he has used his timing better than a lot of other GMs. Even to an extent, we talk about how great Howie Roseman is. I mean, he's got a whole bunch he does this too. I mean, he gets in front and gets these contracts signed, gets A.J. Brown in before Jefferson and before these. Now A.J. Brown's like the 7th highest paid wide receiver in the league. Same with Devontae Smith. He's like the 15th highest paid wide receiver in the league. They've done good and getting very young guys. Now they've got to apply this in the next year or so because they've got a whole bunch of young players that they've drafted really high in the first round that are all going to be up for contract extensions. And can you keep applying that same standard year over year over year while you're adding void years to other veteran players? It's this really, it's a tug of rope a little bit. It's, give and take and give and take. And I will say you're watching teams like the Dallas Cowboys become, I think, less relevant because of their inability to retain their talent at a discounted rate.
You get a discount.
They did it with Dak 3 times.
Yeah.
They overpaid him 3 separate times. So, in the Cowboys, I don't know. They've got a top heavy roster. Did they sign their first ever free agent over $12 million per year? Did that happen?
Yes.
Did they sign somebody? Who did they sign?
It was. I think the number was even like $6 million. They hadn't paid a free agent more than $6 per year in a long time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. So yeah, the Bills have been able to, I think still maintain a level of aggressiveness in the open market. And I know I did for at least a little while, kind of viewed this offseason as, well, the extensions are in this bucket, and I'm not really going to count them towards the offseason, but how much money they've spent, the players, the quality of players, and the types of players they were able to sort of extend and re-sign, I think you also have to lump in with the players that they've brought in. So, all in all, I mean, I think Benjamin Solak had them as the team with the best offseason. I don't know that I'm going to get there necessarily. I still feel if this roster has a couple of, I think, very glaring holes, that I do suspect that by the end of next month, we're going to have a pretty good idea of if they've got work left to do. But, yeah, I mean, signing the guys they did at the numbers they got them and then filling some holes in free agency, I think it's been a very successful offseason. I just think this offseason, maybe more than previous ones, we're getting a real, I think, close look at how Brandon Beane negotiates these contracts, when, and the importance of the when. I think that to me has been the thing that's most eye-opening. And I think there's a little sense to me, too, that James Cook and his people are almost trying to use his early, approach to their advantage rather than the Bills. Because if you look at James Cook, outside of his unbelievable touchdown year this year, he's had combined 4 touchdowns the previous 2 years. The Bills might say, this feels more like an outlier to us than you're saying this is our new normal. And I think if that's a place where you're going to start your standoff, that's probably where it's starting.
That's probably right. And with the other guys like Benford, Rousseau, Shakir, I mean, how many great years?
Multiple seasons.
Maybe. Shakir's got a year and a half.
Shakir's been consistently kind of going upward.
But he's also not asking for that much money.
No.
He gets a reasonable deal. Benford, I think, is interesting for this, too, because, if you think back to whatever week it is that All-Pro comes out and Pro Bowl and Defensive Player of the Year, and you think Christian Benford is being underappreciated, now's the time to be glad about that.
Yes, that's
because
right.
it saved you $6 million a year.
Probably.
Like if you made first team All-Pro, you're not getting
different story.
So Benford, we all know, is really good. Benford doesn't have the accolades. Same with Rousseau. We think he's pretty good. He doesn't have this monstrous list of accomplishments. And Shakir is the same. With Cook, he has at least 1 year of, did you watch the league? It was Saquon Barkley and me on touchdowns.
Yeah.
And his touchdowns, here's another point about Cook. Like you may say the year before, he had 4 total touchdowns. This year, how many goal line carries did he get? How many inside the 5?
A lot more than he previously did.
But Cook's average length of touchdown, I believe, was second to Barkley.
He had like 3 or 4 really long touchdowns.
He carried the ball from distance.
But he also did see more inside the 5-yard line carries that he basically wasn't ever used in the red zone. He was a between the 20s back his first 2 seasons.
Yep.
He started to finally see red zone touches. And listen, I mean, if we want to break down the touchdowns, I don't know that there's a lot of value in trying to sparse out, just how he had a couple of big, long touchdown runs. He was their best big play threat last year, most consistent big play threat. I mean, he basically had a 20-plus yard run every game. He was one of the best 20-plus yard running backs in the league. Bigger plays than just about anybody in football. Him and Saquon, it wasn't just touchdowns with him and Saquon. It was big plays. He was the one guy in the offense that I think you looked at and said, all right, if we need a home run, he's the guy that's getting us the home run.
Mm-hmm. He had a 65-yard touchdown against the Chiefs.
And then I think a 50-yard against the Dolphins.
He had a bunch.
He had a bunch of big runs.
He had a great year.
Yes, he did.
What's the best case scenario?
He uses that year to
do it again?
To maximize it? Yeah, to do it again.
Then you sign him to top 5 money? Or then you let him go?
I think you have to let him go.
803-0550. Give us the best case scenario on James Cook. What's your best case scenario for the way you want to see the Bills run? What's the best case scenario? Joe Brady certainly likes him a lot.
He does.
They lean more into the run game, and Cook is the guy that carries the ball the most. He's the most explosive by far, that's for sure. I mean, Johnson and Ray Davis are both pretty good, but I don't think there's any doubting that Cook is the best of the 3. What's the best case scenario? What should they be doing? Because it sounds like they're willing to play the game a little bit here, with Beane saying we're on to the draft. So you can give us a call on that, 803-0550 on Cook. The reason I mentioned the 65-yard touchdown run against the Chiefs is this is a franchise that at times has focused on, all right, we need that one piece that's going to get us over the top against the Chiefs. That's Von Miller, right? We need a closer. We need someone to get to the quarterback. I don't think that they've really changed their approach, Nate, when the Eagles go out and beat the Chiefs. The Bills don't watch that and say, like, oh, invest in the defensive line. Like, they've been doing that for a while. So I don't think that's news to them. But this offense without Cook, because if they say we're on to the draft, he does still have, and this is the key to me, I'm sorry it took me 21 minutes to get to this, he has a huge piece of leverage, which is he can just sit. Because there's a very key difference. On a rookie deal, if you sit and you don't show up, those fines can be rescinded or waived. That's not true on other contracts. If you're on your second contract and you hold out, those fines cannot be waived. You're a rookie, he can skip all of OTAs. He can skip all of training camp. He can show up week 10. Anywhere along the way, he can decide to make it more difficult for them by saying, I'm not going to play. And I know these fines are racking up, but it's funny money because the moment I come back, you're going to waive those. And that's part of it. So he could make it uglier, and he does have that chip to play.
But they don't have to waive them.
They don't, but if they don't waive him, then he's never coming back.
Maybe, that's probably right.
And then the conversation is, could this get so far down the road that James Cook has never played it down, will never play another down for the Bills, which to me, that sounds nuts. They talked about him in a very glowing light. McDermott saying that he is laser focused. Like once you get to that level of mental commitment, I feel like you're in McDermott's inner circle. And I think a lot of guys end up getting there, even guys that end up leaving and it might go sour. Like my guess is along the way, over the course of his career, McDermott was very much on Diggs' side because this guy is intense. And I need guys that care and are intense. And that's James Cook. He talked about Cook at the end of season presser in the Chief game being so locked in and so ready. And one of the big conversations about that game, the AFC Championship, is why this guy wasn't on the field. Mm-hmm. And now we're almost ready to say, like, well, what if he's not on the field at all for the whole season? Okay. I just wonder how much Cook is willing to do, how far he's willing to go. Of course, OTAs. Like that's if you're his agent, that's an easy one. Like skip OTAs.
Yep.
Skip OTAs. Skip camp. A week. 2 weeks. Make a point. I don't know how far he'll go. We'll get some calls in on this. Scott in Cheektowaga is going to lead us off this morning. Hey, Scott, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Great.
My best case scenario is that we sign him for half the money he's asking for, have him play it out for a year, and call it a day. I think that the reason for his increased production last year is a philosophical system/game plan approach to last year versus years past. And any back that is a first through third round talent could probably come in and produce about 65 to 75% of those numbers and not have to put up those kinds of dollars up front. I think that position is way easily replaceable.
Oh, sorry, Scott. You keep going.
No, it's all right.
Keep going. Oh, he hung up. Okay, I was going to let him keep going. 65% doesn't sound too good to me, though. If you told me they drafted a third rounder and he gave him 65%, so now I have a 35% drop-off in production from my top back, like that's not good enough. The thing I'll say, I don't think you're wrong, though. I mean, I tend to agree about, guys can just come in and do that. The Bills have been spending picks on running backs like it's going out of style, even though here we are talking about whether or not they should pay one. They've drafted 2 in the second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
1 in the second.
1 in the second. 2 in the third. Spent another one on Nyheim Hines. Like they've been chasing running back for a while.
But never really. Here's the thing, though, is the next time that Brandon Beane signs a second contract to a running back will be the first time.
Yes, that's right. I mean, McCoy got money when he got here.
Yeah.
But that's not the same kind of thing. Like they're trying to establish a culture, blah, blah, blah. The thing I would say about everything you just said about Cook, about how the system is designed, everything about that is true about Shakir. Shakir is a good player and flourishes in this offense in a large part because he gets manufactured touches and good looks. And you could make the case to me that you could have saved that money and had somebody else get those manufactured looks. And, I think Shakir is very good, but he does not play a position where it's viewed as completely replaceable the way that Cook is sometimes, viewed that way because he plays running back. Thanks, Scott, for the phone call.